Welcome back to Chasing Roost. Today we've got a special guest, Dylan Metheny of 405 Mods, here to talk to us today about building bikes, building business, and everything in between. So Dylan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
For sure. Now we've done a few collaborations across the years. Back when I was at Ajax, we did some suspension videos here recently. I got to go to Springfield with you guys and film the arena motocross team, I guess I should call it. Mm-hmm. Got to see the behind the scenes on that. That was awesome. Kind of sparked some of them. I was like, I've got to get you in the studio. Got to get you telling some of the behind the scenes stories that we talked about around dinner time. I thought that was great. And then the suspension video we did at your shop a couple weeks ago with Kyle and the guys, that turned out awesome. So I'm just stoked to have you in here. Hopefully we just kind of go off on rabbit trails and just see where it goes. But thanks for coming today.
Yeah, appreciate you. Super excited.
Yeah. So let's kind of start from the beginning. I want to kind of go about it chronologically and just kind of see where everything goes. But how did it all start for you? How did, like, from the beginning, how'd you get into dirt bikes and what was that like?
So my mom had a friend that was a kind of odd that they would get me into it, but she was a medic actually at 59th and Douglas.
So yeah.
And she would go out there and hang out with her friend while everyone was riding and stuff. And she would tell my dad, man, it's so cute watching the dads push the kids up the hills and stuff. And my dad,
helmet's bigger than they are.
Yeah, my dad was actually super against it in the beginning. He was like, 50s, turning to 65s, turning to 85s, turning to big bikes. Yeah. Next thing you know, going a lot faster, doing a lot bigger jumps and stuff. And he didn't ride or anything like that, but she thought it was pretty cool. And so I guess Christmas when I was 5, I got a JR50, and that's kind of where I started. So
that is the backwards way. I was not expecting that. Yeah. From a medic being the one saying, usually they're all like, hey, keep your kids out of this stuff. But the medic's the one that got you into it. The mom's the one that leveraged it, and your dad was against it. So
yeah, it was crazy because by the time I was on like 65s, I mean, my mom was she didn't like it anymore.
She flipped the script.
First time I came home, had to go to the hospital after riding. She was like, "All right, this is not what I hoped, And my dad, at that point, was like, "I told you what happens,
So he wasn't bought into it yet.
No, he was. By the time I got my first bike, he was,
never missed a chance to say, "I told you so."
Yeah,
though.
he was ready for sure.
Yeah. So what was his background like? Because you're mechanical. Did you get some of that from him?
Yeah, so he didn't like ride or anything, but he was when I was little kid, he had race cars. He had like drag cars and stuff, and so I grew up going to the drag strip with him and his buddies, and one of his buddies owned like a tuning shop off of I-35, kind of south of where Ajax is, and some of my earliest memories are being there trying to get candy out of the gumball machine, playing with the rocks out in the parking lot and stuff while they were working on cars and stuff. So I just remember growing up watching my dad work on his cars and stuff. And when I was real young, I remember like seeing him like grease on his hands and stuff. And for some reason I was just like, man, that's so cool. Like I would go out there and I'd rub my hands in the grease. Like I just wanted my hands to be black like my dad's were after he got done working on stuff. And so, I mean, that's kind of where I started, just watching him work on his own stuff.
Yeah, that's so funny. That reminds me of when I was a kid, and my dad had race cars too. And I remember one time he was out there painting something on the race car, or I can't remember exactly what. But he gave me a little bit of paint, and I had like a little John Deere tractor that you could pedal. And he looked back up, and I was painting blue. The John Deere tractor was painted blue, like I was painting too. Kind of the same thing. You see him do something, you want to do it too.
Yeah, I just thought it was cool. He always out there working on his stuff. I'd steal his tools and be working on my bicycle and stuff like that. So kind of always like, just been around it. Like I said, he didn't ride, but he had cars and stuff. So motorsports and mechanical stuff's kind of been around it my whole life.
So what do you remember from like your first race? What was that like? What do you remember from that?
My first race was at 59th and Douglas. It was on the JR50 a couple months after I got it. Had no idea what to expect. Parents really didn't either. Like I said, my mom didn't really know anything about it. She'd gone out there a couple times with her friend, but she was just like there hanging out with her friend watching, so she didn't really understand anything. My dad didn't really understand what it was. I mean, I had showed up with blue jeans and cowboy boots, and the only thing I really remember from my first race was taking off on the lot or on the track, and a couple corners in, they wave a yellow flag. So okay, the kid crashed. I'm in like last place, you know, on JR50, which is like a Suzuki PW50, and I remember I just stopped. I'm like, waving next to some guy ran out on the track. He's waving a flag. I'm thinking, I gotta stop. Like I can't pass this guy.
Yeah.
Like he's waving me down. And then, you know, come find out later, you know, it's just a caution flag or whatever. But that's like the thing that sticks with me the most is like, you know, just being so green to it, not knowing what I was doing. But good memories. That was the only time I ever got to race 59th and Douglas before it closed. So that's kind of a bummer, but glad to say I at least got to go once.
Yeah. I've driven by it. I guess parts of it's still there, but I've never been set foot on the property. So
yeah, that was just the only time I had.
Yeah, everyone says it's like the epitome of Oklahoma motocross.
Yeah, I've heard countless stories. I mean, I don't really even remember the track. I remember the one corner where the guy was waving the flag, and that's pretty much it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So first race there, and then kind of take me through, I guess, kind of the phases of your racing career all the way up to maybe teenage years. Mm-hmm. So how did that progress for you? Obviously 65s and up. When did you kind of, I guess, go all in? What did that kind of evolve like?
So when we first started out riding, we actually rode at this place in Newcastle. We just called it the golf course. And it was just it was an old golf course that was shut down, and the old clubhouse, some of my dad's buddies owned the land, and they just had bikes in there, and so we would just go in there and ride, or just take off and ride around. Like, you couldn't really tell that it was a golf course anymore. It'd been shut down for 10 or 15 years. There were still some sand pits and some bunkers around, but for the most part, it was just fields and some trails and stuff. And so on the weekends, we would go out there and ride. And then I think I didn't really start racing until like probably a year or so later. I got an XR50. Mm-hmm. Then we started going to Moto City. We lived in Tuttle, so we were like 10 minutes from Moto City there in Blanchard, and go out there every Saturday, Sunday, and doing just like the local night races and stuff. And then just kind of progressed from there. Got a KTM 50 after that, and then once got the KTM 50, we started doing like the state series and stuff, traveling around a little bit more. Once I got on that was the junior 50. I got a senior 50 after that, and then we started going to like Texas and kind of branching out. I rode bicycles and stuff like from the time I was this big, like telling the story about like taking working on my bikes. Like my dad likes to say that, tell a story about how when I was like, I don't remember 3 or something, I just told him one day, I was like, I'm done with the training wheels. And I took my own training wheels off, and then I went in our house, and we had like a ledge going out into our garage. Uh-huh. And he said I came pedaling out there, and I tried to jump off the ledge and just went over the bars, skidded across my face. And so I grew up like just on two wheels, and so like I picked up, once I started riding, I kind of picked up on it pretty quick. And so we got pretty serious pretty fast, really. Within first year and a half, we, like I said, we started traveling around, and it wasn't until I got on 65s that we started going to like some of the amateur nationals, like going to Ponca City, mm-hmm. and then trying to go to Loretta's and all that kind of stuff. Just kept going. Yeah. We had a lot of fun going to like Texas Winter Series and stuff, and just improving. Yeah. A couple things from that is, one, everybody wants to ride on a golf course. That is like the ultimate dream. Yeah. So is that place even still exists? I think it's probably got sold off. I think it's like a housing development now. Yeah. It's in Newcastle, so I mean Newcastle's kind of grown quite a bit. But you couldn't really tell that it was a golf course anymore. Like I said, there was a couple sand bunkers still there, but they were full of grass, and like so if you rode down into them, you could tell. But I was on a JR50. I wasn't trying to get down in that sand. That'd be so cool to build a motocross track on a golf course. My very first day of riding, though, kind of funny story. We I rode an XR50 before I got my JR50 out there at that golf course, and I took off on it, and I think same thing every kid does first thing. Yeah. I just grabbed a handful, and my dad took off after me, trying to slow me down. And he said he tried to reach for the kill switch,
Yeah.
Like, turn it off. I don't know why he did that. So just picking me up off the bike. But when he did, he grabbed the handlebars and I just knifed the bars. And then he tripped over the bike and then body slammed me into the ground. And I was over it. I was crying. I was like, I don't want to ride. I don't want to touch it. Like, and then he put me on like a KX 125 or something on the front.
Yeah.
And, like, rode around the field the rest of the day. And after that, I was like, yeah, I think I want to ride again. But for about 20 minutes, I was crying. I didn't want to ride.
I mean, I was kind of the same way. I think a lot of people are the same way. Like, starting out on a dirt bike is gnarly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think this is where these kids now with the Stasics and the electric 50s and things like that, like, have a big advantage. Even if the whole industry doesn't go electric, or whether or not, however you feel about that. But, like, it's hard to deny that an electric 50 for a new kid is, in my opinion, awesome, because different levels that you can ride that thing on. You're not going through stators and clutches and all this maintenance crap. You charge it, you go ride it. You charge it, you go ride it. And then maybe, you outgrow that and go to a gas bike, or you can ride more all day long. With, like, the vibrations, the noises, it's pretty intimidating.
Yeah, for sure the Striders and the Stasics, like, that's, I mean, as soon as those came out, I mean, everyone kind of knew, like, those kids are going to be really good. And I mean, you're kind of starting to already see those kids, like, they're on 85s and stuff now. Those kids that grew up riding those Stasics and stuff, we just had BMX bikes and scooters and stuff. You didn't have, something that you just, I mean, practice in your backyard hitting ruts and stuff. And, no one's gonna bother you if you live in, a housing addition or something, opens up a lot more opportunities for kids to, learn how to ride a dirt bike and, progress. So really cool. Like I said, that we're seeing that now.
You made an interesting point. I'm going to rabbit trail with this for just a second, but, like, we see kids starting out even younger because now they have the ability to, and they can do it kind of in a safe way, where you start out on the Strider, go to the Stasic, go to electric 50, you get all this extra ride time in. By the time you're on a 50 or 65, you're a couple of years ahead. And even the kids that were 10 were already, like, superstars. So I wonder what's your kind of perspective on that? Like, we already kind of see where professional motocross athletes peak out in their 20s. Do you think that's going to affect that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to affect it. I think, I think they're going to get a lot better a lot earlier. Like, I think you're going to see a lot more young riders coming up that, I think the AMA rule's still 16 or 17 before you can go pro, but I think that you're going to see some kids that are really pushing that, like, 16, they're turning pro. Because, just having those skills, like you said, by the time you're 10 years old, I mean, some of those kids have been riding for 7 years at that point. The development that you get on a Stasic bike, whether it's a dirt bike or not, I mean, those skills, apply. It's really cool to see.
And you made a good point too. Like, when you're 16, if you have the speed to go that speed and the skill, and not just wide open and crash all the time, but, like, there's an expiration date on your body. You might as well, I guess, might as well hit it.
Yeah, you're seeing it now. Like, you see, like, that Cole Davies kid that went pro.
I like him
this year. I mean, that kid's got a lot of just bike skill.
Yeah.
And he's been arguably one of the best ones in the whoops, which is, not super rare, or it is super rare for, a rookie. But I think that's what you're seeing, and you're seeing these kids that have just grown up on two wheels, not just two wheels, but motorized two wheels. Riding a bicycle or something, doesn't quite translate the same. I mean, it helps for sure, but you see, like, at Loretta's, they have a pump track there, and man, last year I was riding by on a mountain bike, and there's this little 5-6-year-old kid on a Stasic that was manualing it and hitting transfers and stuff. I just
got his timing down.
Yeah, I had to stop and watch him for like 10 minutes because I was like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, most kids his age are, like, learning how to ride a bicycle with no training wheels for the
They're still pooping their pants.
Yeah. I mean, he's this big, and I mean, just manualing and jumping and stuff, and, like, and it's really impressive.
That is cool. That's cool. that's opportunities that we didn't have. Like I got started on an XR80 and I was like, this thing's going to kill me, you know? Kind of getting back on track. So you raced kind of regional, did some Loretta's stuff too. When did that kind of transition from racer to working on bikes and working on bikes for other people? What was that transition?
Yeah, it was pretty early for me. I raced, like I said, I started trying to do like the whole Loretta's thing and all that pretty early on. Never had really any good luck at the regionals, so I actually didn't even make it to Loretta's until my last year that I tried. I raced college boy, so I probably could have made it several times, but like go down there and have some bike issues or get hurt or something, and never made it happen. And so when I was like 14, 15-ish, I was always like tinkering with, like I said, with my bicycle or whatever, and had a pit bike that I worked on and stuff. And then I thought like just working on like finding a way to be in the sport long term was kind of what I wanted ultimately. Obviously the goal for everyone when you're growing up as a kid is to race professionally. That's like, I think everyone thinks like that would be the coolest thing in the world. And I just kind of realized pretty early that like, yes, maybe I could go race professionally, but like as a career path, it wasn't like the most beneficial long term. There's very few guys that get to retire and are done. Don't have to work again. And so the reality of it was, and I realized pretty early was, whether I go race pro for a few years or whatever, I'm going to have to get a job one way or the other. Yeah. And so, I knew I wasn't going to be a Ricky Carmichael. I wasn't going to be, someone like that, and so. Who?
Ricky Carmichael.
Yeah, I've never heard of him. But
she sounds like a jerk.
Yeah. He's getting it pretty hard in the media the last few days. But so anyways, I kind of like decided, maybe working on bikes would be like something I'd be interested in doing. And so I just kind of started working on my own bike a little bit more and trying to figure it out and learning. And when I kind of really realized like, hey, this is what I really enjoy, is I was building a bike for myself. I think it was 2014 Yamaha 250F, and I was planning on going to racing some pro arena cross on it. And I think Josh Hansen at the time had a black frame on his bike, like a black powder coated frame. I was, man, that's the coolest thing.
He always had some sweet
like
style.
That's so awesome. I want that. So, man, I went out in my garage one day. I didn't get permission from my dad or nothing. And I tore all the way down to the frame. Just took everything apart. Had no idea how to put it back together at the time.
And how old are you?
I was probably 15 at the time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't drive yet. So, yeah, probably 14, 15. And I tore it all the way down and had it powder coated, and then spent 2 weeks trying to figure out how to put it back together. And got it back together, and got it done, and was just excited. Like had a black frame, black swing arm. I powder coated the hubs, relaced the wheels. Like watched a ton of YouTube videos, like trying to figure it all out, and just pretty proud of it. At the time, it was first bike I had ever modified. Done something to, and so it's kind of where I got started, and then just being at the track, helping out some buddies and stuff. Like Tanner Myers was one of the first people that I really worked on his bike. He actually paid me. Yeah. So
bonus.
First couple times I did that, I was like, man, this is pretty sweet. I'm doing this all the time in my garage for myself for fun. And so, Tanner slipped me, $20-$30, whatever it was. I don't remember. It probably wasn't a lot. Probably wasn't worth a lot at the time, but that's kind of where it started. Yeah.
Yeah. So started out working on your own bikes, aesthetics, and transitioning from that to more of the technical work. Was it just kind of a natural progression, or kind of how'd you end up going off the deep end to, now you've got full on CNC machine, dynos, full on race shop. How did Dylan Metheny working in his garage turn into 405 mods, national, international enterprises, you know?
A lot of hard work, a lot of, just a lot of commitment to it. So when I was in high school, I was kind of trying to decide, am I going to work on bikes? Am I going to get a job? What am I going to do? And machining and stuff was like, that's very intertwined with working on bikes and modifying stuff. And so I went to machining school when I was in high school, took some vocational classes and kind of learned how to do that. And that really was like kind of the point where I learned a lot about just like measurements and, tolerances and all the stuff that you need to know to build like a reliable engine or anything. And so, started doing that. And then, once I kind of figured out, some of that kind of stuff, how to use those kind of tooling and measurement equipment, that's when I really kind of dove into like, hey, I'm going to start building some engines for some guys. And like I said, it started off small. Like it started off, I was working, I'll do a top end for Tanner on his like 2-stroke or something, and then, I actually got hooked up with Alder Caudle when I was still in high school, and I would go over to his house every Monday, and his dad would pay me like $15 an hour or something, and I'd go in there and I'd wash his bike and I'd grease it, clean the carburetor, change the air filter.
He was getting the good end of that deal.
Yeah. And I would go in there and I'd work for 3 or 4 hours a day, or every Monday, get his bike ready for the week, and then I'd come back the next week. At the time, I was in high school, and $45-$60, like I was like, man, that pays for my gas for the week. Like I'm good, and,
didn't mind doing the work.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Like I really did. And then that kind of progressed a little bit. I started going, he would take me to some races on the weekends and stuff. And once I got out, so all through high school, I worked for him. I got out of high school, I graduated, and I actually Chase Marquier hired me to be his full-time mechanic.
And what was he on? Was that when he was on 365?
Yep, he rode for the Crossland Ride 365 Honda team. He went pro in 2015, so this was 2016. The year after he went pro, it would have been his first year Supercross, going into his first year Supercross. And so I started in June, I guess, after I graduated, and him and I just hit the road and traveled around, and we spent a lot of time in Arkansas where the team shop was, and got to meet some of the mechanics and stuff on the team. And then we did, I think 4 or 5 of the outdoor nationals that year.
Yeah.
And so that's where I really got to like meet a lot of the people in the industry and, kind of learn from people. I got kind of thrown in pretty quick.
Yeah.
So really picked it up pretty fast, from just being around really good people and, having some good mentors and stuff.
So they had a full on effort, right? It was semi-truck, full on, I don't even know what you call it, support privateer kind of thing.
Yep.
I can only imagine, like, you were working on bikes in Adler's garage to now you're like at the nationals. Yeah. You probably have a badge.
It was a little different. So they only did the first 3 outdoors that year as the official team. So it technically was a Supercross only deal. For that team that year, and then they ended up doing the first 3 outdoors. I went to Lakewood, and he had a race mechanic because it was like right as I was like transitioning and starting, and I just went and like shadowed them the whole day. It was cool, being under the semi and stuff. I didn't really do anything. I think I put a sprocket on. That was it. That was all I did for the day. Just hung out and watch. Yeah. But after that, Chase and I loaded up in his van and just privateer effort went to all the rest of the races. We had the team bike and some in support from the team, but we didn't take the rig or anything. So Chase and I have known each other since we were little kids. We grew up riding together. I would go to his house every day after school and ride for years. And so it just, at the time, I didn't really think about it a ton. Like it just felt like it was just me and him going racing like we'd done 1,000 times our whole life. And so looking back at it now, it's like pretty cool. I was 17, he was 18. Like we were just young kids, just out. Racing the pro nationals and stuff. it's his first year pros. My first year as like a professional mechanic. So like we were learning it together. You know, it was just a lot of fun.
Man, I can't. That would be like the coolest experience. I know that's exactly what I would have wanted to do. I wouldn't have wanted to be the pro racer. I was like, I want to be the guy working on the bike. At least at that point.
Yeah. When I started working for Adler when I was in high school is kind of when I like realized I had more fun doing that. Like more fun as a mechanic versus a racer. You know, racing's just stressful. You know, it's like you got to be focused on what you're doing. You know, all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you can't really control. You know, you're risking your life every time you put your helmet on, when you're racing at that level. And like, I just didn't really want to take that risk for one. And then also like, I can just like control a lot more, with working on the bike. And so I just enjoyed it a lot, going to those amateur nationals that I went to with Alder when I was still in school is kind of where I really was like, hey, like this is what I want to do. I don't really care to race anymore.
What were some of the big learning curves early on? Like, what were some things that you specifically picked up on, maybe from the other guys, or you just picked up along the way? You're like, maybe mess that up. Let's do that better, differently next time.
Honestly, nothing like stands out like a specific like situation or anything. More so just taking your time. Like, I feel like when I was younger, like it was like you have like this pride of like, hey, I can get this done in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Other guys are taking 2 hours, and you think like rushing, like getting it done fast is getting it done good. And you make mistakes doing that. You're not, you can't be as meticulous when you do it that way. And then, so it kind of flipped in me, like where I was like, hey, like I need to take my time a little bit more. And, so I would say like just rushing through the job, trying to get it done out of some kind of pride that was probably the biggest mistake I made early on.
So we're working for Chase right now. What's kind of our next step in the progression?
So Chase, I was working for him. That was 2016. He was going to have the same race mechanic for Supercross. In 2017, the guy that he had last year, he was hired through the team, and he was going to go out to California. I was I didn't really want to go to California at the time. I had some stuff at home that I wanted. I was kind of starting to work on like some customer bikes. Like 405 mods had kind of started. Like I'd already started.
You started calling it 405 mods at that point?
Yeah. So 405 mods was coined the December 31st, 2014.
Okay. Very specific.
Yeah. That's like, I started
when your baby was born.
I started a Facebook page.
Okay.
If you look at my Facebook, it says I started working at 405 Mods December 31st, 2014. So it's actually 3 months ago. It's been 10 years. So it's kind of crazy. We've been a decade into it at this point. But anyway, so Chase was going to California. I was doing some customer work on the side. I was making some more money doing customer work on the side than traveling, and I was having a lot of fun. But I was so I quit working for him at that point. Started just focusing on growing the shop again, and then a couple months later, Adler's dad Tim actually got in contact with me again and was like, "Hey, I'm looking to hire someone," and it was kind of an opportunity to where I could do both. I could go to the races. I could, still be meeting people and growing, but also come home each night and, do my thing there, And so that's what I did. I went back to work for Adler in the beginning of 2017. And then I think I stayed working for him, till this year pretty much. Yeah. Like I was this full-time guy until 2020 probably. So, or 2019 or something. And so him and I, we'd go riding every day. I'd come home, work on bikes in my garage. In like 2018, my dad and I got a shop in Norman. And that was like kind of when it like became pretty serious. Like we moved out of our home garage to an actual shop. And that's when I started taking it, like I said, a little bit more serious.
Yeah. I've kind of noticed a trend with not just you, but mechanics, racers in general, but that bond that you formed. Like when we were talking about how you've been with Chase for a long time, you really know him, pretty deeply, like almost like a brother, that same kind of thing with Adler. What what's kind of the behind the scenes, like with getting to know your rider like that? What things do you pick up on? How's that different than just, a friend that you kind of know?
Yeah, I mean, when you're someone's mechanic like that, like you're with them 24/7. You're with them when they have bad days. You're with them when they have good days. You got to be the bad guy sometimes. You got to be their best friend sometimes. And ultimately, like, their success is your success. So like, you got to push them to be the best that they can be, so that you can have a job. Like that's the kind of the bottom line. Like,
it's a win-win.
If they're not performing and not doing good, like, you're probably out of a job. And so like you really got to be there for them and help. And you just, by doing that, you grow a lot together and you learn a lot about each other. Chase, I've known since I was in kindergarten, I think. So him and I growing up, we know everything about each other. And then Adler, I've known him since he was 5 years old, so got to watch him grow up. He was like a little brother to me. Like, him and I still to this day super close. Talk to him almost every day.
Yeah.
And
how's he doing since his accident?
He's doing good, man. Yeah, man, I'm just so proud of that kid. Like, he's probably one of the toughest people I know. Like, just man, just going through what he's gone through, and just like having the head on his shoulders that he still has it's pretty crazy. It's like every time I talk to him, just inspiring, really. Like, makes you want to do more for yourself, because like that kid's not giving up. He had for people that don't know, he had a spinal cord injury, paralyzed from the middle of his chest down. He's out in California doing some rehab, and like I said, just not stopping, man. Like, I was talking to him, and he's just, I don't understand why, like, it's like that big a deal. He's like, I'm just training still every day. Like, nothing's really changed. He's like, I don't ride, but like, I got the whole life thing figured out, and he's doing good, so still checking in on him all the time, making sure he's all right. It's pretty gnarly what he's doing, but there's not a person out there that I know that could handle it the way that he is.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Is there any way, a little sidebar, is there any way that we can support him, like Road to Recovery, right? It's kinda helping out.
Yeah, so he still has a Road to Recovery, and that just helps pay for some of his therapy and that kind of stuff. He's living out in California. He's out there by himself. He's 19, just paralyzed. Within 30 days of being paralyzed, he's like, I'm going to California, and I'm going to walk. Yeah. I'm going to go to the best rehab facility I can find. And just, man, I just don't know a lot of people that would do that. But yeah, you can find his Road to Recovery links through his Instagram profile.
Yeah, I'll leave a link to that in the show notes for you guys to be able to reach out and support him on that. I know that would be helpful on that as well. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's but yeah, just I don't, like I said, it speaks to his mentality. 19 years old, says, hey, you know what? I'm going to move halfway across the country. I'm going to live in a apartment by myself, newly paralyzed, trying to figure this out, and I'm going to try to recover.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would do that. Like, I would, want mommy and daddy to take care of me. I think, I'd be down. So
that's incredible. He came into the shop a lot, all the time. He's kind of like everybody's little brother too.
Yeah.
And I didn't know him super well. He hung out on the parts counter a lot, but yeah, just getting to see him over the years and grow up, and just to see him from a racing standpoint, broken arm all the time. He's always in a good mood or whatever, but like taking that kind of hit and still being that kind of proactive and high on life kind of guy.
Yeah.
That speaks a lot. I'm sure there's dark times.
Yeah.
But
100%.
It's pretty cool to see what he's doing every time he posts a video, and he's like moving his legs a little bit. Like, come on, but you can do it. Come on. So I'm stoked for that. So yeah, guys, send him some love on that. So that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yep. We appreciate it.
Yeah. So did you ever have the aspirations of being like full factory mechanic, or was it always like, I kind of want to start this race shop or go that direction?
Yes and no. I mean, that at the beginning, like when I was in high school or whatever, and I was like really starting, like that was the goal, like, hey, let's get hired onto a race team and this and that. And then kind of started figuring out like how it really worked and like how much those guys get paid, and it's not a ton, it's more, it's
big commitment, low compensation.
Yeah, it's for sure a passion project or a passion deal, for those guys. And I mean, not that I get paid anymore now, but it just didn't really, I didn't really want to have the commitment moving to California, not getting paid a ton, being gone traveling all the time. I still really don't want to do all the like full, like, I mean, it's 31 races now, I think. I mean, that's crazy, to be gone that much and travel that much, all those different places. So the idea of it being like a factory mechanic, it sounds cool.
Be fun for a few years.
Yeah. To me, it's a little bit monotonous. I think like you're working on the same bike, you're doing the exact same job every single week. You take it down to the frame, you clean it, you grease it, you put it back together. And I mean, I do a lot of the same at the shop, with the same bikes and stuff, but at least like there's different challenges and different problems that come about, and you got to really test yourself. And so pretty early on, I realized like I want to do my own shop. That way I can be in control of what I want to do and where I want to take it.
So 2018, you've got your own shop down in Norman, and that's when things kind of start to blossom. You're starting to even hire some guys. What was that like, kind of shifting gears from racer to businessman, business owner? What's that like, that new, I guess, responsibility? You've got overhead and guys to take care of now.
It was tough for sure in the beginning. So I hired my first guy when I was still working for Alder, and so the reason I hired him was because Alder and I were hitting the road. We were gone 2 or 3 days a week, and there was still stuff that needed to be done. So trying to manage that while I'm on the road, helping him, and I just had a kid that went to college at OU, and he would just come over and clean parts and just do what he could to help out. And it was a lot easier then, honestly, than it is now. It's grown to something I didn't really imagine it being. Back then it seemed a lot easier, a lot less overhead, a lot less bills, a lot less everything else. So that's something I was still learning, still growing, trying to figure out. But in the beginning, it was pretty easy. I mean, it seemed like we made good money, and like it was a lot of fun.
Everything's roses at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's something that when I look at you is kind of inspiring to me, is like how fierce you are, as at least outside looking in. Like, you look like a racer on the race line, on the starting line, the way you do business, like very professional. It's not like, and not against shops that run a little bit differently, but it's like, we're in business to be in business. We also love it. So there's some of that too. But I think in motorsports, sometimes the passion outruns the business side, and then you're just like spinning in circles.
Yeah.
But I think you're really balanced in that, to where you do want to keep pushing forward. You want to do it, with intentionality. And you stay grounded on the business side, because like, I think it's pretty easy, especially you see people wanting to come in like, oh, I want this and this and this from you. They're always asking. I'm sure you get constantly, but it's like, you do keep it pretty balanced. What, and I guess, what's kind of your mentality behind the business side of it and keeping it balanced like that?
It's that in the beginning was super tough, honestly, because when I first started, it was, you're doing all stuff for your friends, people that you've grown up with, people that and it's tough because you want to help everyone, and I still want to help everyone. If I could do it all for free for everyone and still do all the things that we do, I would do it. But I just look at it now that it's bigger than just me. We've got 3 guys at the shop, and then myself, and they're relying on me to build a career for them, and so that's kind of what keeps me focused on the business of everything. Like I don't want to screw it up for them. I don't want to screw it up for myself or for the people that rely on us. Even our customers. We spend a lot of time going and testing like at the track like during the weeks, and I can't do that if we're not making money. I can't be at the races. I can't be at the track during the week if we're not making money. And not that I'm trying to get rich, because I'm definitely not, but I do want to provide for the guys that work for us. That way they can grow in their careers. You did the video with Kyle, and Kyle's he's dedicated to
absolutely
making the best suspension that he possibly can, and that's what I want. I want out of all of our guys is being focused on being the best and doing it, and I think that's what helps push us forward. And every now and then I got to be the bad guy and tell people no and whatever, but it is what it is. Like I said, that's what keeps the doors open and keeps us being able to help people ultimately.
Absolutely. Yeah. Quality people cost money. And you want quality work, you got to get quality people. So it all trickles down. So I mean, you're competitive for sure. Not always the cheapest, but definitely always competitive. But I think the quality is what sets you apart. I haven't spent a lot of time at other race shops or anything like that. But I think the quality and what you said a minute ago about like slowing down and making sure you're doing it right. I think that is what separates 4 or 5 mods from, I wouldn't necessarily say other race shops, because I think race shops do it well, most of them that I can think of, but like maybe your buddy in the garage kind of guy, like me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a marketplace for everything. I think that if your budget, I want to be as cost effective as I can, but we have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment at our shop that I've got to pay for to be able to do the jobs that we do. We have people that are relying on us to do the service that we offer. And so I can't be there for everyone like I wish I could, or maybe that I was at one point, which sucks, but we're trying to make it as best as we can for everyone. With the equipment we have, I mean, 4 or 5 mods, I mean, is what, I'm proud that we're probably one of the only shops in the country. I mean, there's a handful maybe that have a chassis dyno and a suspension dyno and a CNC machine. Like, we make our own in-house parts. We dyno test everything that we build, so that we can really prove, we can really try things and prove things before they go out the door, and not just taking guesses. I mean, because that's ultimately what you're doing, especially with suspension. Like, we got that suspension dyno, and man, that thing's been a game changer for us. Like, I don't know the exact details on your suspension, because Kyle did it, but I mean, there's times that we'll revalve a shock 6-7 times before it leaves the door. I mean, completely redo the shock. And you're not getting that anywhere else. And I'm not going to charge you 6 or 7 revalves, when you come in either. But I'm gonna, we're gonna charge you that one time, and until I hit the points, or Kyle hits the points that we're looking for on the dyno there, then it's not leaving. And so that's where some of the cost comes in, because every time you do that, it costs oil, it costs supplies, it costs time for one, and so like I said, there's a market for everything, and I want to be there to help everyone that we can, and I'll guide people to other places that might be a little bit more cost effective if that works within their budget.
You gotta be in business. You gotta stay in business to be in business. Kind of maybe more a little bit of lighthearted. What are some of your pet peeves?
Like as far as working on bikes, or
sure. As far as working on bikes, or that customer pet peeves, like don't bring your bike in dirty, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's probably one of the bigger ones is dirty bikes. It just makes it's not that we mind at all. I'll wash your bike and stuff. It's 30 degrees outside. I can't even wash it because everything's frozen. And like, that's some of the reasons why we get it, because everyone's dealing with the same thing, But it really helps us, if it's clean, especially like if we're doing engine work or something and we got to take it apart in the chassis. If you can pull the tank off and wash underneath it and stuff like that, it just helps us out, makes the job a little bit faster because, now we don't have to kind of plan a time to get power, go outside and wash it and all that stuff. But that doesn't, like I said, doesn't really bother me a ton. I don't really know. I mean, that's a good question. I have to think about it.
What do you think people do wrong?
Working on their bikes?
Yeah.
Going back to washing them, when you wash a bike, you got to blow it off. Like a lot of people, they'll wash
with air when you're done.
Yeah. With air or and then make sure you're lubing the chain and all that kind of stuff. One of the biggest problems that we get at the shop is people washing them and then just leaving them wet, and then all that water kind of soaks into all the little crevices and stuff, and you'd be surprised by you wash a bike and then you get air and you start blowing it out, all the dirt that you find.
Yeah.
I think everyone that does that can account for that. That, and then I think to go back, like one of my pet peeves, I guess, would be you kind of touched up on it a little bit in one of your videos, is like greasing, like keeping everything maintained and greased. Man, you buy a bike and they're brand new KTM factory edition, or something's almost $15,000 now, and you're getting an awesome motorcycle, but they don't come from the factory, with a lot of grease and stuff, and there's no like anti-seize or anything on it. And so, man, we see bikes with 10 hours on them that we got to replace swing arm bearings and linkage bearings and stuff just from, them not being greased properly, and then getting water in them and stuff like that. So, just taking care of your bike, man. Like, you can, it means you got a bike, you got to maintenance it, and you got to take care of it, and, set it off on the right foot when you get it.
Is there a brand that you think is not worse as far as quality goes, but like worse off from the showroom floor as far as like you have to do that right now type thing? Because I have one in mind. But
they're all pretty bad.
Are they really?
Yeah, I think that honestly, the Yamaha to me is probably the worst on lack of grease.
They whisper some grease on it.
Yeah, like they're pretty dry. Like I just did one this morning, actually, a 24. The linkages were like bone dry. Like, I mean, you could just slap grease in it and set it out the door. Like you don't have to clean the old grease out or anything, and they're all pretty bad. I was thinking
like which I hadn't seen a new Yamaha, but like a new Cowie's, man. Those things like a little film of grease, and that's all it was on there.
The Cowie's pretty bad as well. Like I said, none of them are.
It's just the Japanese bikes are cutting costs a little bit. Because I tore apart a KTM. I think it was like a 2019 KTM after it had like 10 hours on it. It was like, just saying, got the stock grease on it. It's not bad. Yeah. Maybe that's changed since COVID years, but
yeah, the KTMs aren't terrible. Something that we've been seeing a lot of in the last like couple of years is shot peen being in the frames and getting in the steering stem bearings, which is kind of weird. Like from when they blast it to paint it, they're not getting it cleaned out very well, and it's getting up into the steering bearings. So
you get it crunchy.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. You don't really see that. The race team bikes, the Chase's FC 450 and Wyatt's bike, both. We took them apart when we got them, greased them, and then 3 or 4 hours, Chase was like, "Hey, my steering feels weird." I'm like, "That's weird." I just greased it. I took it all apart, and it was full of that shot peen. So something to watch for. We started. You can put like some tape in there, tape off the inside of the frame to help like mitigate some of that coming out, and then just trying to shake it all out if you can.
Weird. Yeah, never would have considered that. Which most people never take their bike to the frame. Which, I mean, even when I do it, I leave the engine in the frame. I don't take that thing out and shake it around.
Yeah.
But, I mean, most people don't go that far. You mentioned having the suspension dyno, and I recently did a video talking about how you shouldn't waste your money on, the add-on parts, bolt-on parts, stuff like that. there's kind of a hierarchy of like spend this, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this. Like, don't go out and graphics, though they look cool, maybe not your first priority.
Yeah.
And consistency usually is suspension first. Speak on that a little bit. Why is suspension like the number one should be attended to first?
So I'm gonna bump that to second. I'm gonna say that
it's a 3-letter word.
The greasing of the bike and everything, just that initial maintenance on it. Number one, establishing a baseline.
Okay.
Because if doesn't matter if we do your suspension, if you got bad linkage bearings or bad steering stem bearings, you're not gonna have a good time.
I'm on board with that.
So then it's suspension for sure. Be the second thing. Not everyone needs suspension. I will say that everyone can benefit from suspension though. Biggest thing first, suspension is not what it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where, it was a huge difference if you go in, you add like some specialty parts and, stuff like that. Now the stock suspension is pretty good, really. It's not terrible, but like, if you fall outside of that intended range, 170 pound, novice intermediate rider that the bike is kind of like set up for, right? They do a good job of trying to make it good for everyone, but that, like I said, 170 pound rider is kind of what it's sprung for typically on most bikes. You get a little bit above that weight range or a little bit below that weight range, and then that's when you need to start altering like the spring, just to be able to set your sag, and then the comfort of it. And then so once you do that, you can kind of go up a rate, down a rate, and not really have to alter the valving of the suspension a ton. And kind of get away with it. You're gonna have some negatives and some stuff if you don't, but pretty much when you're setting it up, like I said, the first thing you want to get springs. And then you're altering that shim setting or that valving setting to kind of match those springs and those changes that you made. So that would be after getting that baseline set. That suspension is for sure your next step.
Yeah, because now we're getting that bike set up for you, not for the other.
Yeah, and people. Setup too is so, it varies so much. You can have two identical twins, same weight, same bike, same skill level. One rides a little bit further back, one rides a little bit further forward, and you're going to need different settings. Every single person that requires their own setting. That's what's been so nice about the suspension dynos. We really can alter those settings for exactly what we think that rider needs, and not just be kind of taking shots in the dark. And so everyone's different. I would love everyone to send their suspension in to us and have us do it, but the biggest thing is finding someone that knows you as a rider and can work with you and understand your riding type, and really getting to know them as a rider. I love to ask for videos of your riding. I love to be able to do my own research on you when we're setting it up. Kyle and I would sit there and watch, videos of you on Instagram and stuff, whether people know it or not, just to,
doing some creeping.
Yeah. Just to understand, like, who are we setting this bike up for? You tell me you're a 150 pound novice rider. I mean, that can be...
What's novice mean in your part of the country?
Yeah, exactly. Are you a true novice rider, or are you a novice rider that's going to go to Loretta's, which you're, in my opinion, you're an intermediate rider, or that's the setup that you need,
right.
And so really getting to know your suspension tuner and relaying that feedback. You like it stiff, you like it soft, how do you ride? Those are the things that we need to know.
That's one of the things that we were talking about at Springfield. I was like, hey, what are you looking for, knowing what you know, when a rider's out there riding? What are some things that you're looking for? And you were like checking to see how balanced the bike is, if it's diving, What are some of those things, just so we can kind of key our audience in, that you were looking for as a suspension tech?
That number one thing is the balance of the bike. You're just looking at the pitch of it,
Front to back.
front to back, the seat, is the seat pitched forward, is the seat pitched down? That's if you just watch your seat a lot, and the plane of the bike, you can really start to decipher what's going on. It gets a little tricky because sometimes the bike's pitched forward. You got to determine first, okay, are my forks too soft? Let's try to stiffen them up. That didn't fix the problem. Okay, let's try to soften the shock up. Maybe
bring it back down.
Maybe one or the other is overriding each other. So you see that a lot. People, bike will be pitched forward, just stiffen the forks.
And then they can't ride this thing.
It gets better, but it doesn't ever fix it. And then at that point, I'd say, hey, let's soften the shock up. Try that. See what happens. So everything that you do has an opposite reaction. One way, the front to back. If the balance of the bike looks good, like it doesn't, you don't notice anything like too drastic as far as the changes go. You're relying a lot on the rider feedback, or your own feedback, like what you feel and stuff. I like to watch a lot of videos. You can slow motion it, see how the wheel's tracking across the ground. Kyle talked to you quite a bit, in your video about like some of the things that we look for, the roost pattern, things like that. If you got a solid trail of roost coming off the bike, that means the tire's planted. If it's choppy, because it's hard to tell, especially when you're a little bit of a distance from the bike, whether the tire's like actually on the ground or not. Because if the tire comes off the ground that much, it's off the ground. But you can't really visually see that. You can see the roost that's getting shot 10, 15 in the air. So that's kind of a telltale sign. And then getting a little bit more strategic, or a little bit more I don't know, tougher, to see is the actual rider itself.
Right.
A good example last week, or no, 2 days ago, Chase and I were at Raynard's. He was riding Supercross. We got some new parts for his forks, and we were trying them out. Determination was it was a little too stiff. We kind of overshot what we were trying to do, and he's telling me, all day, it's pretty good, and I'm watching him, and I can just tell the way he's cornering that he doesn't have total trust in the front tire because of it being stiff. He's sitting a little bit more straight up and down, not really leaning it into the corner. He's very patient in the corners and then shoots down. And so paying attention to what the rider is doing can really kind of determine what they're feeling, even though they might not be able to describe it. I've done that enough to where I can decipher it. But if you start paying attention to it, like if you're trying to help your buddy or whatever, you can really start picking up on those things pretty quick.
Yeah, because you may be like, well, I got this new setting, it works great, and it smells like you don't look as good as you did.
It's tough too, because you have to have a rider that you can't necessarily do that with a beginner rider. So most of the time, there's exceptions, but if someone knows how to ride, for sure, and that's getting into the fine tuning, tweaking. Biggest thing, pitch of the bike, make sure your sag's set, make sure you got the correct spring rates. As long as you got those, you should be
got a good safe baseline that you can progress with.
Yep.
So after suspension, where are you spending your money on next?
It depends on what you're doing. If you're a guy that's going to go out to Draper, to OMC or something, ride a little bit of motocross on the weekends or whatever, then I'm not doing any engine work or anything like that. These bikes nowadays are pretty good from the factory. They're plenty fast. Like I said, it depends on what you're doing. If you're a racer, then you need to start thinking about some motor work. If you're a vet guy, start blinging that thing out.
Let's go.
Let's make it look cool, right? And but First thing for engine work, like if that's the direction that you're trying to go, most people, first thing they do is they put a pipe on it. And pipes are cool. They look cool. But majority of them just kind of look cool. I mean, now that's not to say that they're not still a great pipe and they don't still make power, but anytime you start altering the bike, you got to make changes to the fueling, the fuel, if you had a 2-stroke, you put a FMF on it, everyone kind of knows, hey, I'm gonna have to rejet the thing, right? That's like just pretty common. The same's true for a 4-stroke EFI fuel injected bike. Yes, it'll run, and you may not ever notice the difference with it, but you are changing the way that the bike runs, and you are changing what we call the air fuel ratio. So making those adjustments to the fueling of the bike, no different than jetting it with the EFI is the next step. Putting the ECU on your bike is kind of where we tend to go. Pretty much all the bikes now have their own controller, like an app or something, and those are sweet. For the most part, you can change the way that the bike runs, and you can change the ignition
in its stock form.
In its stock form, yeah. If you're just throwing a pipe or something on, do that. Probably be okay. You start going into changing the fuel, like just from pump gas or something. You're gonna have to make some modifications to that fuel table. Those fuel tables are very limited to what and then the ignition table as well. Very limited on what they allow you to do
in the stock ECU.
In the stock ECU, yep. Like just with the Kawasaki Rideology app, the KTM, I think their new tuner, they have a tuner app. Yamaha has, I mean, pretty much all of them have their own app. Super cool that you can do that from your phone. Super fun. I mean, we use it on customer bikes all the time. But again, it's limited in what it allows you to do. It's only I think you have 20 or so is the max amount of fuel cells that you can actually alter between the RPM range and the throttle percentages. Whereas with an aftermarket ECU or something, you have several hundred data points that you can alter. So the clarity of an aftermarket ECU is always going to be much greater. We can really, really dial it in to exactly where we want it throughout the whole range of power and manipulate it a lot differently than you can with the stock tuner apps or something. Again, not necessary for everyone, but you start building a race engine, like we would call it, piston and porting and cams or anything like that with the 4-strokes. That's a huge benefit. My personal bike, I'm buying an ECU before I do anything else to it. Before I put a pipe on it, before I do anything else, just because if you're looking for power delivery change, if you're looking for you think it has a gargle or it's not super clean in an area, all that can be fixed with an ECU. Putting a pipe on it, if you're lucky, may fix your power delivery issue that you want or whatever, but you're stuck to whatever it does. Whereas an ECU, we have unlimited variables that we can change and really manipulate it however we want.
And I've heard that the pipe makes a lean bike even leaner. Because at least with my KTM 350, there's if you put a pipe on it, that might sound better, but it's really not going to help you out. And the bike's problem was that it was already running a little bit too lean anyways. And I think is that kind of the problem with a lot of them, just to try to get to the emission standards? They're already running kind of lean. They could use a little more fuel.
It definitely could. So I don't know how if I'm just imagining it or what, but it seems like for some reason almost every bike that we dyno and then we're building a custom ignition map or a fuel map on, around 5,500 to 7,000 RPM, somewhere in that range is always super lean.
So what's the half throttle, a little over half throttle?
Right in the mid range of the RPM.
Is that right where they test it?
That's
For emissions?
Maybe I couldn't answer that like for sure. That's kind of where I go to when I see it, because it's weird. It's across all brands, and like I said, I'm not sure if I'm just like kind of making it up or whatever. But I feel like every time we do one, we really have to richen up that area. That could not be the case for sure. Like I might be kind of just I see that a couple times or whatever, but it definitely seems like that they have some work that can be done for sure. And with those apps, like I think your RPM range on the app that you can adjust is like 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000. So it's like
pretty big windows,
pretty big gap, and it'll interpolate it through from one to the other. So you kind of can, but with a aftermarket, it's like every 250 RPM we can change that fuel timing, and it's pretty crazy on how much it changes just in those very small windows of RPM. So
I've heard you can do some really cool things with like a KTM 500 EXC.
Yeah. The those things from the factory for the emissions and sound and everything, man, they're so choked up. Like they come
like, what's a number?
Like 35, I think is the last.
And what's the stock 250F?
40 almost.
Like,
yeah, I mean,
like it's sad.
Yeah, it's insane. They're quiet. I mean, they're still a fun bike, but they're just so down on power for how heavy they are and everything. And
it's a thoroughbred motor inside of that thing. It's just suffocating.
Yeah, so they have a reed cage in the intake. Just from what I understand, it's more for sound coming back through the intake than anything. Like backfiring, I guess, or something. I'm really not sure why they do it. It just seems, it literally just looks like a KTM 300 reed cage shoved in the intake. 4-stroke the reed cage. It's super weird, but and then the exhaust on it is super plugged up. So you go in there, you pull that reed cage out, put a FMF or some kind of slip-on and put a ignition on it, an ECU on it, and you can like double the horse, or not quite double the horsepower, but make a huge gain in the horsepower.
Make that bike into an animal that it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Not a 500 4-stroke. You want 500 4-stroke.
Yeah. Make it a lot more fun.
That's pretty cool. So like when you put a bike on the dyno and you're setting these different parameters, what are some of the things that you're actually doing there? Because like when I watch your videos, like, oh, it's cool. You go, and then you like roll off. And so what are you actually doing with that?
So the biggest thing that we're doing is just altering that fuel table. That's going to be like the starting point. Trying to get that fuel table set to whatever air fuel ratio that we're targeting. And so you're just manipulating that until you get that output, and that's going to give you the best throttle response. It's going to give you like the most clarity in it. And especially, like I said, when you go and you start adding these different things to the bike, you have to adjust for them. And then moving on from that, the next kind of basic thing that you do is you're altering the ignition timing. And so that's where you can kind of really adjust the feel of the power, kind of manipulate the power, whether you want a little bit more front side, you want a little bit more over rev, you want, every situation is different. Every rider is different. We typically will set riders up with 2 different maps. So we'll set them up with what we call like our race map, and that'll just be like, not necessarily max power, but just like a really good broad power range. And then we'll set them up with like kind of a detuned option for, if it's track's a little slick, it's muddy or something like that. And then that just kind of takes a little bit of the hit away, gives you a little bit more manageable power. And that's all done with the ignition timings. So there's a ton of other things that you can get into. With an aftermarket ignition, it's unlimited in the things that you can do and change. We don't get into a ton of super deep into it with that stuff most of the time. Every now and then there's cases that we have to, but for the most part, when you get an ECU, you're getting the fuel ratio right, and then altering the output however you see fit.
Yeah, that's super cool. It's been a minute since you put a video out on that stuff. I think do you have it set up at the new shop just yet?
Yeah, we have it set up. Normally when I'm on it, and I'm just
grinding it out,
trying to get it done. Seems like every time that we have one in, it's like, man, we got to get it done right now. We got to, we're wide open trying to get
nature of the beast on that one. And then you mentioned having a CNC machine. I'm just going through all your toys right now, but you mentioned having a CNC machine. What type of stuff are you doing with that? What kind of projects are you working on? How is that an asset for your shop?
It's super cool. I mean, I haven't been doing a ton with it the last couple months. We've just been so busy with customer work and then doing the arena cross stuff during the winter. So finally get some more time. I'm going to get back into developing some more stuff. But it's awesome, man. We can, tooling, any kind of tooling that we need. If we need it, I can go out there and make it right then. I don't have to order it or wait on it. So that's been like a super huge, like something I didn't really plan on from getting it. Mm-hmm. But some of the parts that we've been making, we make our own custom like KTM 85 two-stroke head. Mm-hmm. It uses like the stock insert, but it's a billet head, one-piece head. It doesn't have like where you like screw in, like most of them you screw in the coolant port that comes out of the top of the head. And ours is all one piece. So we're really proud of that. Zane, your cousin, actually, he was a huge role in getting that developed and made. And then we have some suspension parts, some bladder caps, and we sell a billet spring cup for the new KTM WP shock.
That's kind of some stuff that's born out of necessity. Fill a need.
Yeah, we see something that we think we can make better, and that's really what we do. The two-stroke heads and stuff, that was just kind of a passion thing. Like they look cool, they look sweet. They don't necessarily offer a ton of performance benefit, except for they do cool a little bit better because they're a little bit thicker. They got a little bit more heat sink there, but for the most part, it's just we see a problem that we need to solve, and then that's what we do. The most of your new KYB and Showa shocks all come with like these stupid little rubber grommets that you gotta like pierce with a needle to fill up the nitrogen in the shock, and like looks very similar to like how you like fill a basketball up or something, and it never fails. You build a shock, you go to fill it up with nitrogen, you press the little grommet, and it's just wedged in like a little hole in the backside, and you'll just push it and it'll pop out and fall into the shock, and then you gotta take the whole shock, you gotta take the whole thing apart, pull the bladder out, and like redo it. And then I've seen them where they fall out like on the track, or they just, over time, you shove a needle in there so many times, they start to leak, lose nitrogen pressure. So, like I said, out of necessity, we just in safety, ultimately for the rider, we started making our own bladder cap that utilizes a Schrader valve instead, so that we can have a little bit more control there, not have to worry about it. So.
Yeah, nice. So switching gears a little bit. You've been, I don't want to say preoccupied, but I know your focus has shifted a little bit towards having the race team. So next chapter, so you got your race shop going on. 2024, you started up Ajax Motorsports 405 Mods race team. Tell me about, and maybe back up a little bit, because I know you had some involvement even previously to that. You've always been helping racers out. So what was the genesis of that race team for you?
Yeah, I mean, it starts at the very beginning, really. Like you mentioned, working for a factory team or something, and I love the idea of it, and I love all that, and but I just didn't. I'm not great on being on someone's schedule and being on someone's time. I'm a very passionate person, very dedicated person, and I don't necessarily need someone to kind of look over, and tell me where I need to be and everything. I like to have the freedom to do it how I see fit. And so the goal with the shop has always been to have a race team. That's like from day one, it was, I want to build this shop as a way to facilitate that. And then and it took 10 years to do.
Yeah. You need some place to lose all your money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it gives us the ability to go out and meet people and be interactive with our customers and be able to provide for them there at the track. So fortunate, I have a great relationship with Brian at Ajax. He's, I guess middle of last year, we started we did our WP center and kind of merge deal. So really proud that we did that. We're the only WP authorized service center in the state of Oklahoma. Through Ajax, I provide the service, and they sell all the components and everything. So it was a great deal for both of us. I'm super happy with it. So that kind of got Brian and I a little bit closer, started talking a little bit more, and he's kind of in the same boat I am. Ajax is supporting a lot of guys. We're supporting a lot of guys, and it kind of got last winter, I guess, probably like a year and a half ago. We were both getting a little frustrated with some of the guys that we were helping, not by their doing, but by the other people that were supporting them, and making it a little bit more difficult on us to help them. And that's the goal, is to be able to help people or help those riders. And it was just spreading us kind of thin. We were I felt like we were fighting a lot of like the same problems from different sides with all these different people. And so we just got kind of talking, and we were like, man, why don't we just like give these same riders the same level of support that they're getting from other places, but from us. That way we don't have to kind of tug and pull with people, and we can kind of have a little bit more control over what goes on and just make it a little bit more simple for everyone involved. And so we got to kind of talking about doing an arena cross team and stuff like that. And then one thing led to another, and then we did it this year. With our, the Ajax 405 race team. We did the General Tire Arena Cross with Chase Marquier and Wyatt Reimer. And so it was cool that we finally, made that happen, and, hope to continue to grow that, in the future.
Yeah. I mean, it's been cool to watch that all progress. And I think what's unique about it is, well, one, you have good riders. That's not what's unique about it. But I think what's unique about it is how you service and go out and get the sponsors. I think that's kind of unique, and maybe it's not, and I just haven't ever seen it from this perspective before, but it seems like you go the extra mile to put them on a pedestal. And one of the things I think is unique is you kind of do a different title sponsor every week. So maybe Ajax Motorsports is one week, maybe Fuel Ministries is a sponsor one week, maybe Dump Monsters is a sponsor another week. And I think this speaks a lot to you as a businessman, is like, you are probably the one that's actually putting in the most effort out of anybody. If it's anybody's name and logo that should be on that bike right on the shroud, it's yours. But you choose to think about it in the long-term perspective, and you're adding extra value to those businesses who are supporting you on that race. You're making them big. You're doing it up for them. What's kind of your thought process behind that? Why is that different for you than what I see across the board from everyone else?
I think that's something that's changing. Like, I think that's being done a little bit more in recent, like, last couple of years. Like, the biggest thing for me is providing enough value to make it worth it. I just been around it for so long, and I've just seen so many businesses sponsor teams come in and, like, get out of it what they hope to get out of it. And we just try our best to really, really focus on making sure that the people that are helping us are getting that same value back, if not more, because if they're getting value, then they're going to continue to support the team. We can continue growing it, and then it's a win-win for everyone. I just you see in our sport, unfortunately, a lot of just kind of a take, and it's just something that I just don't like. I really want it to be beneficial for everyone. And so having the title sponsor each weekend, one, it's exciting. It brings more engagement, and you go to the races and you have the exact same graphic. It costs a lot more for us to do it this way. It does. I mean, we went through 10 sets of plastics in 8 races, 8 rounds, and then 16 sets of graphics throughout the season or throughout, so it definitely, it's not cheap to do it that way, but it, like I said, it just provides so much more engagement, each weekend. People are excited to see, we show up to the races and pushing our bikes to the pits, and everyone's looking at them like coming up, hey, what's Dump Monster, what's this, and it just allows us to talk about really talk about those sponsors and start a conversation with those sponsors. You put Ajax or 405 mods on the shroud of it, and then you put all your other sponsors on the rear fender. No one really sees them. It's great to have them there the whole season afterwards, but I just want to be able to have a whole weekend that's showcasing that sponsor, and continue to grow that into, a bigger and bigger thing. We learned a lot this year, like from the first round to the last round of like how to really market those brands and help push those brands. And so I'm really happy with the way it went this year. Really look forward to all the things that we're going to implement for next year to make it a little bit better. We got some really cool plans of how to get some of that engagement going a little bit earlier. This year was our first year. We're trying to figure it out as we went. Everything kind of came together like super last minute. I think we got the bikes, 3 weeks before the first race or something.
Yeah.
And so trying to get sponsors and everything that first year when you don't really have a something to showcase, was tough because, I was going to people and I was trying to do my best to like explain our idea, but until you've done it and you can show someone what your idea is, it's really tough to get them to commit to any kind of monetary value or anything, and I understand, and so I wouldn't want to, write a check for someone, asking for probably what I was asking them for without being able to show them what we were trying to do. I hope that now that we have the kind of the showcase of it, we can continue to grow it and, make it better for next year. So it was a lot of fun. Super excited to continue to grow that. And like I said, show all the things that we learned this year.
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned a little while back is like, and I think it's true that at this level, even though, and I don't want to say just arena motocross or just a regional series, but you can be more influential in some of these arenas than maybe a logo that's on Chase Sexton's bike, right? Because in the way that you activate while you're at the races and showcase the product and feature that company, you're doing it in ways that's given them exposure that their marketing at home is probably not doing that.
Yeah.
So I do think I have the kind of the marketing mindset, and that's been my background, is you're doing things for those companies that is what they're paying for. Where I think most people, I don't think they know what a sponsorship means. They just want one. Like I want a discount on parts, or I want free this or that. Like sponsorship to me is a two-way street. It's basically you're going to provide me equal value at least for what you're giving me. Did I say that right? I got lost. Basically, it's an exchange, right? So you got to provide me the value that I'm about giving you, or this just doesn't work. It's not going to work for long term, and that's what you're going for, is long term partnerships. So working at the shop for so long, someone comes in that you don't know, or maybe you do know them, but they're like, man, I deserve this or that. I'm like, well, maybe you're fast, maybe you're influential. It's conversation is not dead on the doorstep right now, but maybe we should talk about it a little bit before you come in swinging with I deserve this or that. Like, how is me helping you out going to benefit me? Because I'm in business to be in business. Of course, we want to help out as many people possible. But like you said earlier, if my doors are closed, I'm not helping anybody out. And the fact of the matter is, every one of my customers is a racer. So if I'm emptying out my pockets for every single person, this isn't working. So I guess the question I'm getting at here is, in your experience on both sides of this equation, how or what can you tell somebody who's maybe thinking about wanting to go out and get a sponsorship, or wondering, am I at the point where I'm good enough or providing enough value to be worthy of a sponsorship, or whatever that looks like? What kind of insights can you provide into that?
You got to provide the value up front. You got to show that value up front, just to kind of full circle with like the team and stuff. We had several sponsors this year that we didn't get anything from, not a single dollar. It was more so, hey, I want to prove it to you first, of like, hey, this is what we're going to do and this is what we're trying to do, before I ask you for anything. We had several sponsors I didn't even ask for anything. I just said, hey, I like your brand, I like what you're doing, I want to support this brand, and I want to help push this brand. And then it helps us showcase what we're capable of doing, because it gives us the thing to focus on. And so when someone is looking for sponsorship, like I said, I think that's got to be your first step. Is you gotta prove it to them what you're capable of doing, not just results or anything like that, because results are awesome, but results don't pay anything. It's services, products being bought, it's services being paid for. That's what sells things, or that's what actually provides the value. And so it's, like I said earlier, it's tough because I want to help everyone. And when someone comes in and, they ask for a sponsorship, if it's your first time at our shop and you ask me for a sponsorship, it might be a little bit tougher for me to want to give you a sponsorship, because you've never spent any money with us. And so we try to, I never say no. I always am willing to help in some aspect, but loyalty is more what we're looking for. I will always support the people that support us. Right. You come in a couple times, I'll start discounting you. You keep coming in, your discount will grow. You bring in people in. We have a way of tracking that now, of like, hey, this person sent us in, that is more so what we're looking for than race results. Right. We live in a different landscape now, for sure, too, with social media and everything, to where sponsorship has had to change quite a bit, to where it's not about the race results anymore. It's about clicks and views and engagement and all the other things that people are starting to factor in, but didn't factor in for a while. And so that's really where we put our focus in on the race team, is, trying to make sure that we're driving that traffic and providing that value for the customers. Something we've been doing that I'm pretty proud of is we started working with some of these brands that we're partnered with. I don't want to say we're sponsored. I want us to be partners. I want us to work together to build each other's brands up, and so we've started doing some like informational videos and some installation videos for those customers, or those partners that we have. And so it's something that we're continuing to work on to make better and provide more value. But I think we're starting off pretty good. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, it was always one of the things which I absolutely love motorsports. I loved working at the shop for so long, and it's hard to complain about something that you love so much, and sometimes it just get you down whenever someone come in that after they've bounced around to 4 different shops over 3 different years, and they want this and that. It's like, man, this is a small business, man. Like, come on, show me where you're gonna help us out, and let's have that conversation. But just come out of the gate swinging, it's tough, and it was always kind of got you down, because like I'm trying the best I can here, but
the thing that sucks too is most people that ask for sponsorship need the sponsorship. It's true. They're not asking because they can't. They're asking because they need the help. They maybe can't afford our sport. It's super expensive, and so that's where it's super tough for us, because like I said, I want to help everyone, And so sometimes, maybe I can't sponsor you, but maybe I can help point you to someone that can help you a little bit more, that can afford to, and whether it's just a buddy that can help you change your tire or something, help you get going, but I always want to try to help, but you got to provide the value, you got to sell the stuff. So what we've kind of transitioned into more is, like I said, you come in and someone mentioned that they brought it to you. I'm going to flag that on your account, and then when you come in, I'm going to give you a discount because you brought that customer in.
Yeah, essentially it's a commission.
Yeah. It's like a punch card. You come in so many times, you're gonna get a free service or whatever off. Maybe it's not free, but maybe it's discounted based off of how many people you bring in. So I think that's more fair for everyone. You got to provide value to get value.
Yeah,
and that's just kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I was joking with the guys and us, and then the other day I was like, "Man, you don't go into Walmart and complain about the egg prices and ask them for a discount at the cash register."
Yeah,
but you'll do that at a mom and pop shop. It's like,
yeah.
I don't have to keep beating that dead horse. It's just kind of one of those things that used to get me down. I was like, man, I mean, you can't tell it from the outside looking in, and someone's probably going to give a better deal somewhere else, and there's always someone that's going to do it cheaper. But it's like, this is, with all things considered, this is what we got going on. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I'm not going to keep beating that dead horse, but it's just something to consider if you see one thing that's probably more going on behind the scenes. But mm-hmm. What are some of the things that maybe you've learned over your time and experiences running a race team, running a shop? How's that changed you, your perspectives?
Man, it's shaped everything about me, really. I mean, it's all I've pretty much done, is work on bikes. I mean, I haven't really had any other jobs or anything like that. Like, I've just been around this my whole life, and just I don't know. I mean, all the lessons that I've learned in life have came from, running the shop and, being around motorcycles my whole life, the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough to pinpoint one exactly, but I mean, like, I wouldn't be here without, dirt bikes and, the shop and all that stuff. So
yeah. I mean, it's cool to see something. How old are you?
26.
You're 26?
Yeah.
I thought you were older than that. Dude, that's crazy. So I'm 31. You're 26. So, I thought you were older than that. You're more mature for your age, probably. But that does continue to speak into what I was about to say, is like, I don't see many people our age, your age especially, young pup, that are doing these things, that are taking chances on themselves, that are... and maybe it didn't seem like you were going all in all at once, but like, I don't think there's many people with that mentality, that mindset, that are willing to put in that work day after day and do what it takes and grind it out.
Yeah.
I mean, how long are you usually at the shop every day? Or I'm sure there's been ones where you probably slept there.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, my wife definitely doesn't appreciate it sometimes, because, I mean, this week I think I've seen her for 2 hours this week. It's Thursday. So, I mean, she's asleep when I get home. She's asleep when I leave. It sucks, but it's what we do. It's what we have to do right now anyways. Hopefully it's not like that forever, but we're still in the infant stages of this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, been doing it for 10 years, but I don't feel like it's where I can take my foot off the gas, and hopefully I never feel that way. Hopefully I can continue that, but, we work a lot, not just me, the whole crew. I'm sure Kyle and Cole and everyone's still working right now, as we speak. We got a great team, and, I'm proud of those guys for all the hours that they put in, because we definitely couldn't do it without them, but, it's definitely tough sometimes, but I enjoy it. I like to know that when I lay down, I don't ever have trouble falling asleep, because when I lay down, I know that I gave it 1,000% that day. And I laid it all out, and I mean, I think that comes from racing, and not like, I think racing is so good for you. You know, it's an individual sport. You know, you're on your own out there. Like no one can help you. And so I feel like, you know, kind of have a chip on my shoulder in a way. Not that I'm trying to prove anything other than to myself that I can do this. You know, I can make this happen. And so it definitely, you just stay locked in, you stay focused, and you'd be surprised what you're capable of. You know, I think most people they don't give themselves enough credit, and they don't understand what they're capable of. And you just pick something that you are passionate about, and you just lock in, and you know, you make it happen. Yeah.
It is kind of, obviously I haven't made those steps. I guess making this YouTube channel is kind of part of that a little bit, kind of taking it upon myself, but it does feel like that. Like you, it's like when you line up on a gate, it is what you make it. You know, if you want to be a mid-pack guy, you can be a mid-pack guy. If you want to go out there and win it, you're gonna have to put in some work.
Yeah.
You got to do what it takes, and you have to weigh that up against what you've got going on personally. Like, do you want to be the leader? It's going to take some things and sacrifices to be the leader. You may not get to go home early and have some free time on a beautiful day. Like, you may be at the shop working, but to get the results you want to get, that's where you need to be.
Yeah. It's a balance for sure, because you gotta have those days to reset, and you got to be able to, you know, that's something I struggled with a lot. I mean, I still do, you know, but for sure in the beginning, you know, I would just never not take a day off. Like, I didn't understand. I didn't see a reason to. Like, there's always work to be done, you know, and even now, you know, leaving sometimes at, you know, 6 o'clock, you know, I'm at the shop normally by 6, and then I leave. I try to leave at 6 o'clock so I can go spend some time with my wife and, you know, eat dinner and hang out with her, hang out with my dogs, you know, just chill out. And the beginning, it was tough. Like, I just couldn't, you know, I just couldn't turn my brain off. I couldn't just relax. I just felt anxious almost, you know, like knowing that there was stuff to be done. And so it's a good quality to have, but it's kind of tough sometimes.
Yeah.
But like I said, you definitely are in control of whatever you want to get, and you know, you just gotta focus.
Yeah, that's super cool. Super cool. Got some more rapid fire questions. First one is like, what is the best bike you've ever built or ever ridden, I guess, but there's probably been some cool ones that you have built.
First, as far as best bike I've ever built, man, the bike I'm probably the most proud of is this last bike that we built for Chase for Arena Cross. Just
looks full factory.
I love that bike. Like, I hope, you know, I mean, Chase loves that bike too. I'm proud of that. So, it was cool being able to do we did like the bike build series and everything, like showcasing everything that we did to it. So that was super fun. That's the one I'm most proud of building. My favorite bike that I've ever rode, I've never rode that bike.
You haven't? I was about to ask.
I haven't rode that bike, but I think that'll probably be my favorite bike to ride once I do ride it, because my favorite bike I've ever rode is a 2023 KTM 250 SXF. That bike was just like the perfect motorcycle. First time I rode it, I was like, man, this thing is awesome. Like, power delivery.
That was a new motor platform too.
Yeah, it's the same platform that they're on currently. The chassis is a little bit different, but the engine platform and everything is what they're still on. But man, that was probably my favorite bike to ride. So with the chassis updates that they made in 25, that what Chase has, I think that 450 would probably be my favorite bike once I get a chance to ride it.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised you haven't ridden it, but also kind of not surprised with how hooked up you always are.
Yeah, I haven't rode since July, I think, of last year. So almost 9 months.
It's a minute.
Yeah,
it's a minute. If you can go ride anywhere in the world, where would it be? Preferably someplace that you have ridden before, that you have experience with, but let her fly.
Just if it was somewhere that I had ridden, there used to be this track that I used to ride in Oklahoma City off of 119th Street. There's a sand track on like I-44 and 119th. like kind of towards, you'd be going towards Mustang, kind of. It's on the other side of I-44.
Okay.
But I grew up riding there all the time. It was like a sand track kind of near the river. Just had a ton of fun out there. So if I could go back and ride that, like on a big bike, I never got to ride it on a big bike. It was all on little bikes. I'd probably have a great day riding it. First thing that popped into my mind of like dream track to go ride, it would be from that track. It was sand track. I love riding in the sand. I just think it's fun. Lommel in Belgium.
Okay.
Just seeing.
I don't think I could make a lap.
I don't think I could either, but I would love, like on a full prep day, like smooth track, I'd love to go out there.
Get a couple good ones in before the whoops turn into skyscrapers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. For your particular perspective on this one, most underrated skill, two sides of it. One side would be like the riding side, and the other side of it would be like the mechanicking side.
Okay. Underrated skill in riding. That's a tough one. Man, I don't know. I have a few. Just like your selection of lines, I think is a huge thing. I think there's some people that are a lot more talented in like seeing tracks differently and putting a track together as one solid line versus section. And so I think that, especially like in arena cross where it's, it's 20-second lap times, everyone's doing the same rhythms.
You got to do a line here so that way 3 quarters later you can be in the right spot.
I think that's a super underrated skill. Everyone focuses on like technique and everything, and that's obviously super important as well. But being able to piece something together like that, I think is huge.
Right. Yeah, for sure. What about on the mechanicking side? Underrated skill.
That's another tough one.
For me, underrated skill on the mechanicking side would be like knowing the feel of a tight fastener.
Yeah, like having a torque wrench in your elbow or something.
Yeah, like when you just being in tune enough. You can't take this when you have to come up with your own, but like that's a skill that you have to learn, is when you can stop tightening in that thing.
Yeah,
like obviously you should use a torque wrench when you can, but like when you're using
especially like
small fasteners, it's like that's the feel of it.
Yeah, like I think when you say that, I think of like the KTM like tank bolts.
Yeah,
like the shroud bolts,
the wood screw ones.
Yeah, those definitely you have to have a certain feel to like, I'm not going to over tighten this, strip it out. Washing the bike. I think a good wash before you do any service on the bike is be like, I mean, that's Cole, our guy at the shop. Man, that guy can wash a bike.
It's crazy too. Like the difference, we could probably spend the same amount of time washing bikes and mine would still be dirty.
Yeah, I'm not the best at it either. Like I feel like I'm good. Like when I wash it, and it was like what I was talking about earlier, when you blow it off, every time I blow a bike off, I'm like, where's all this dirt coming from? And then, I mean, half the time I take it back out there and I go rewash it. But man, Cole, he's an animal when it comes to washing bikes. He's like, we joke about it all the time. Like someone will show up to the shop, be dropping a bike off that just got done riding. We let people use our power washer and stuff, like just to help them out. And Cole pretty much always go take it and like, dude, just let me wash it. Just let me do it. Like if I'm gonna work on it,
sounds like holding. Just let me do
it. If I'm gonna work on it, I want it to be clean.
Yeah.
So like that's his mentality, and so we love it, man. He's got a Yamaha 450 that, dude, it looks like showroom floor. It's got like 60 hours on it.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of how Colton Tihan was at the shop. Like,
yeah,
I could wash my bike and he could go wash it again. Like I literally do not know how it can be cleaner. I spend time, I try, I hit everything I see. I don't know if he does it slower. There's some kind of like Rayman technique that they're using, like to whisper the mud off of that.
Man, I do everything. I have we have a soap cannon. I go out there and I scrub it. I wash it, lay it over on its side, both sides, upside down, take the plastics off, whatever. And every time I find a spot that I missed, and But now Cole, man, he's got that dialed. So
It's the mud whisperer.
yeah.
Who have been the biggest influences? Is in kind of the same way, influences on your racing, and then also influences on maybe the way you mechanic or work on bikes or run business.
As far as business, man, my dad's been huge. He has his own business, and he's been, business guy, development guy, for his whole life. And so all the skills that I have from business, I mean, are definitely from him. Even the marketing stuff, like just some of the ways he looks at things is like pretty crazy. Like he'll flip something around on me all the time. Like, well, I didn't think about it like that. That's a cool way of looking at it. Turn a negative into a positive, like so easy, just off the top of his head. And so that, as far as that goes, for sure him. As far as bike work or like mechanicking and stuff influences, first person that comes to mind is Red. Fred. I mean, I know you know him all too well.
Uncle Daddy.
Yeah, Uncle Daddy. That's my stepfather. Calls me, what does he say? I'm his long lost stepchild, or foster stepchild twice removed. However that works out. So Traven and I are step foster brothers or something like that. But man, I've learned so much from him. He's still a phone call away. I still call him all the time, and ask him questions. And he's not the easiest person to take advice from sometimes.
I was going to say, Red, you're an acquired taste, but
yeah, he's definitely not the easiest. I actually have a really funny story about him. I'll finish that, but then we'll get to it. But as far as racing influences, I spent a lot of time riding with Chad Cook and Robbie Raynard growing up. Still see Robbie all the time at Raynard. Still talk to him, kind of pick his brain about things. So those two guys kind of stick out as like some of the bigger influences, and just like not only my riding career, but just like kind of everything else.
Yeah.
So those two guys, as far as racing, would be kind of top of the list.
That's cool. Yeah. So what's that Red story?
So I had a Suzuki 250 two-stroke that we built for a guy, and it had some kind of weird electrical issue or something, and I spent weeks like trying to figure it out, calling him, like trying to figure it out. Man, we did everything I could think of. I took the engine apart like 3 times, like swapped every electrical component, new carburetor, new this, new that, whatever. And it just like, it had this like weird ping, like it was detonating or something. And I couldn't figure it out. I came up to Ajax one day when he was still working there, had it in the back of my truck. I'm like, hey, Red, will you come out here and listen to this? And he's like, yeah, sure. Comes out there. And I was like, it just like on the top, it just sounds funny, like it's not jetted right or something. And I was like, I've messed with it. I've tried everything I can think of. And the dude fires it up, warms it up, wide open. Whoa!
Just cold seizes it?
Blows it up in the back of my... No, it was warm.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, blew it up in the back of my truck. And then he just looked at me, smiled, said, bet you'll figure it out now. Had no remorse at all. No remorse. Got out of my truck, walked inside, and went back to work.
The whole drive back home, you're like, what just happened?
Yeah, I was just like, dude, are you serious? Bet you'll figure it out. No.
I can hear him say that.
Yeah.
I can see his face.
Oh, dude, I was so mad at the time. But I figured it out. He was right. But, man, just wide open, blew it up.
What was it?
I don't remember now what it was. It was several years ago. Something stupid, but it was funny. I mean, looking back at it now, it was funny. At the time, I was not happy.
Oh my gosh!
And he just smiled. I mean, like most people in that situation, they'd be like, "Oh, dude, I'm sorry." Like, nah. He smiled.
But he's already like, he probably already felt that, but he was like 3 steps ahead. He's like, Dylan, get over this. I'm gonna say something funny right now.
Yeah, bet you'll figure it out.
Oh man. For those of you who've had the pleasure of meeting Red, what a pleasure it is. Red, if you're listening, man, I absolutely do love you, and think like Dylan, maybe not to the same extent, but he's taught me a lot too, in secondhand smoke kind of teaching.
Most of the things that I know came from that dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I was growing up with Traven, going over to his house, just sitting his garage picking his brain about things. Like I said, he's always been a phone call away. He's going to tell you you're stupid first.
Yeah.
But then
you kind of have to earn it.
Yeah.
You have to earn it by putting the dunce cap on and then going to him humbly and asking for help. And, but he's always been really gracious to do it.
He's not going to tell you you're stupid. He's going to say...
He also won't tell you you're smart either.
You know the answer already. Yeah. And he'll help guide you to it. He won't ever tell you the answer. Like he kind of talks in riddles.
Yeah, what do you think it is?
Yeah. He definitely makes you work for it. So, which I appreciate. I think
we're stronger for it.
Yeah, 100%.
Take a little bit of abuse, you learn a little bit faster, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
But he works for KTM now. He teaches the techs, so he's on the phone lines fixing the bikes that are hard to fix. Now you'll figure it out.
Yeah, now you'll figure it out.
Oh man, he was so funny, man. Let's see here, Mount Rushmore of who's on your motocross Mount Rushmore?
James Stewart. So what? Mount Rushmore's 4 guys, right? So
I think it's 4. Yeah.
Mount Rushmore would be James Stewart, Travis Pastrana. I'm gonna put Trey Kennard on there. I think he was so underrated as a racer. Like that dude was insane. Still is to this day. Last one, Chad Reed, probably.
Yeah,
probably Chad Reed.
I agree with all this. It's really hard to narrow it down to 4.
Yeah. I want to say like honorable mention Kevin Wyndham. Like maybe we put like a statue of him like under Mount Rushmore or something.
He's at the Welcome Center.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's pretty rad. Like all the
I loved his transfers, man.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was the coolest thing ever.
So I actually, his daughter is married to one of my good friends, Adam Cranford, and Adam built one of Wyndham's. I don't know if you saw the video of him.
Was it the hydroplane bike?
The hydroplane bike.
Okay.
So Adam restored that for him and sent in a bunch of parts to the shop. We Cerakoted a bunch of stuff, got a bunch of parts anodized, and helped him build it up. And then we also helped him restore his 97 championship bike.
Oh, so no way.
I never got to see the whole bike, like never got to work on the whole bike. I just had parts and pieces. But pretty cool to say that, I got to put my hands on all that stuff. So there's I don't know if it's still there, but that CR 250 that we helped him build, it was underneath Kevin's mantle in his living room for a while, Adam said. So that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. My coolest thing is I had a pair of DVS shoes that had number 14 on the back. Everyone thought it was the size.
I forgot about that. DVS stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, if you could tell people one thing about 405 mods, what would it be? What's your pitch?
Man, we really do care. Like, I care about everyone's safety first and foremost. Like that's kind of the overall goal. Like, we're a performance shop, but I put safety over everything. You're not getting any better and you're not winning races if you're on the ground, and when we're building engines or anything, I'm not trying to build the fastest engine in the world. I'm trying to build something it's very broad and rideable and safe. I don't want you to have any issues. I want you to go out and have fun and be able to keep riding. You don't get any better if you're hurt. And that's kind of our go-to, our motto, like our little tagline, safer, smoother, faster. Like that's really what we really live by that. And we really focus on that. Like we want those to come in that order, so that's what I would like everyone to know. That's what we focus on.
Yeah, man, I've had a great time. You definitely said a lot of, I didn't know you super well. I feel like I know you a lot better now. Funny stories, man, from Red to when your mom got you involved in racing.
Yeah.
And how does she feel about all that now?
She's glad that I don't race anymore. Yeah, for sure. So, she's glad that I chose this, chose something that I'm passionate about. And, so it's going to be cool. Chase and I are going to Birmingham for the Supercross next week. And she actually lives in Alabama now. And so her and my sister are going to come. Be the first time that they've been at a race in quite some time. So be pretty cool, like kind of full circle thing. Like I'm not really racing, but they're still coming to like support us. So so it pretty cool.
That's pretty neat, man. I've had a good time. Listeners, if you're looking for some top-notch engine work, suspension tuning, or just want to support a great local business, check out 405 Mods. Where can they find you on the internets?
At 405 Mods, 405mods.com.
405mods.com. You guys, and I know we didn't even really talk about it a whole lot, but even if they're not needing like the suspension work or that engine work, all that stuff, you guys do just regular work and tire changes, race preps and stuff like that. Some packages that kind of benefit anybody. Like if you, not that necessarily doing your linkages is hard or rocket science, but if they wanted to just drop the bike off, that's a package that you guys offer and can support that.
Yeah, we have a full line of services. Anything that's dirt bike related, we try to be able to help you out. You know, we also do some of the powder coating and Cerakoting and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about some pretty stuff.
That vet rider stuff. You know? So
I mean, you got to go with the vet riders got money. They want to spend it. Someone's got to fill that.
That's right. You know,
find a need, fill a need.
I love to build cool bikes, and let's make it happen.
Yeah, check out their social media. They've got some really, really cool builds that they've got legacies on. So yeah, Cerakoting, all that stuff looks super cool. Can do all kinds of coatings. So go make sure that you guys check those guys out, support them. There's no financial relationship here. It's just, I think what they do is really cool and I want to support that. And who knows, maybe we could talk about sponsorship later if I provide enough value, as we talked about. But I appreciate you guys tuning in to Chasing Roost. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review or a comment. Follow us on Chasing Roost on Facebook and Instagram. And until next time, keep chasing that roost.
Sweet.
All right. That was fun.
That was cool. Yeah, I like that.
Oh, I'm getting stiff.
Yeah.
My hips hurt.